Welcome, dear friends, to Cardiac Radio and the Spiritist Society of Virginia in our Paul and Stephen, The Inner Journey. We're studying this book, Paul and Stephen, by the Spirit Emmanuel through the medium Chico Xavier. Today, we're going to cover some aspects of chapters 5 and 6 and 7 of the first part. This book contains 20 chapters, two parts, 10 chapters in the first part, 10 chapters in the second part. And today we are going to get to the very moment in chapter 6 in which Stephen is brought to the Synedrium. Yes, if you go to chapter 5, and let me open here for all of us. Here we are, chapter 5, and the pages that just escaped me here. And we're going to talk about, sorry, friends. Let me just get to the Sanhedrin, page 125. And there we have it. We have this very moment in which Stephen encounters the Pharisees, and people knew that Stephen was very sharp, and Saul wanted to confront him. And deep down, Saul of Tarsus' purpose was rooted in an arrogant demonstration of superiority, nourishing at the same time the inner hope of conquering Stephen for the hosts of Judaism. So, time and again, throughout these next two chapters, we're going to find the need for Saul of Tarsus to enter a dwell. He wants to be dwelling with Stephen, and Stephen is a pacified man. So today, the main question for us is this. In our awareness, when we read these books, it's about us. Am I dwelling with people? Often we don't dwell physically, but in our minds, we are in that dwell with other people. We call it in Spiritism mental battles. People who struggle in mental battles. Andre Lewis in the book In the Realms of Mediumship talk about that. Inner dwelling, mental battles. I think of somebody and say, oh, when I meet that person, I'm going to say this, I'm going to say that, or I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And I am cherishing that violent nature inside of me. It's that aggression. It's that choleric part of us that is still feeling the need to be right, to be superior, to smash other people, to avenge, showing our level. We're still not there. And Stephen, when he was brought to the Sanhedrin, he talks with great eloquence. And when we read this, we may think, oh my gosh, but he's teasing the forces. Shouldn't he just be quiet? Good question. Do you think we should be quiet? No. If people ask us, what do you think about this? You say it. What do you believe about life? Well, life goes on. The other day, people were coming to my house. We have a dog. And one of the ladies was saying about her dog that died, how she misses the dog. And I mentioned, said, our dogs, they don't die. The body stays, and soon they reincarnate. And if we want another dog, they may well likely come back to us. My dog is the reincarnation of a dog I had previously. They looked at me like I was speaking Greek. Some people are afraid of thinking of life. But if we don't say it, how will they know it? Jesiel Stevens' courage to talk about the Messiah, to talk about the good news, to talk about the gospel of Jesus was the open door for you and I. We wouldn't be here were it not for his courage. If he said, oh no, I don't want to go there, it's okay. We're all Jewish. It's okay. We're just going to help the people, but we're not going to talk about it. That's the case of many spiritists around the world, which are not true spiritists. Because the true spiritist not only improves themselves, better themselves, but they are courageous to cherish their knowledge. It's not a belief, it's knowledge. So the first thing in this chapter is about how much are we really convinced and convicted about what we know. Think about it. Stephen talks with much eloquence, and he says, when Saul of Tarsus asks, so you are of the opinion that the carpenter is greater than the great lawgiver? He's talking about Jesus and Moses. What would you reply, knowing that you could die based on your answer? Well, Stephen said, Moses is justice by revelation, but Christ is living and everlasting love. Ooh, there was an uproar in the large assembly, and a few Pharisees were enraged, shouting insults. Saul made an imperative motion for silence, and he speaks his mind. The dialogue goes on, and it's a beautiful way of feeling the power of Christ consciousness. And basically, we're going to see in this extensive dialogue that our dear Stephen is reinforcing the knowledge that he got to know. That the Christ is the one that leads his life. And sarcastically, Saul of Tarsus says, do you think you'll prove your innocence with such a naive statement? Putting on airs of humility will not absolve you. I witnessed the incident and only sorcery could explain your strange powers. How many people come to spiritist centers and they feel there's sorcery? Are you going to stop? No, we're not going to stop. And we're going to keep on doing like Stephen did. And in this dialogue, he says, this is Stephen. He said, do you desire peace and yet incite revolt? Do you speak of love toward God and yet exploit your neighbor? Do you not remember that the Eternal One cannot accept praise from the lips while the heart remains far from him? Ooh, confronted by such sublime inspiration, Jesus was directly inspiring Stephen. The assembly seemed paralyzed, incapable of knowing what to do. A number of Jewish people believed that they were seeing Stephen the reappearance of one of the original prophets of the race. However, as if they had snapped out of the mysterious power that had silenced them, the Pharisees broke into a deafening uproar waving in the air and proffering invectives for the purpose of attenuating the strong impression caused by the eloquent and ardent language of the orator. Let us stone the filthy dog, let us slay the slanderer. Cursed be the ways of Satan, and they don't like it at all. Saul stood up, red with rage. He could not conceal his fury based on his impulsive temperament. He walked quickly to the accused, giving to understand that he was going to silence him. The assembly immediately quiet down. Well, he goes on and on and on till he punches Stephen in the face with his clutched fists. Stephen made no attempt at all to react. The Pharisees applauded the brutal gesture in noisy delirium as if they were at a party. His sudden fury increased. Saul struck without mercy. With no more argument in the face of logic of the gospel, he resorted to physical force in satisfaction of his natural proclivity. So, Stephen didn't react. And Saul of Tarsus says, "Do you not retaliate, coward? Is your school also one of indignity?" And Stephen says, "Peace differs from violence as much as Christ's strength differs from yours." And this is where I'm going to share something with you. Recently, when I watched season 4 of The Chosen, a program that we appreciate very much. Season 4 is already available in your app at Amazon Prime Video. And I've seen in this season 4 a different Jesus. Downcast, depressed, worried, and even at some point, reactive. And then I wrote in a post from the director, Dallas Jenkins, I don't recognize Jesus in this. I don't think Jesus was like this. Many people commented, "Oh, you haven't read the Bible. Look at the Bible." That's not the Jesus we know. Can somebody preach hope, joy, courage, peace, and do otherwise? No. Nowadays, we see Christians, quote unquote, because true Christians don't do this, very aggressive, very sectarians, prejudiced. This is not a Christian. A Christian is all embracing, is peaceful, kind, not aggressive at all. How many of us accept the Christ but do not absorb the Christ? All of us. We need to change it. Get out of this dwelling. So let me show you a form, okay? I'm going to show it to you. A form that the good spirits at the Spiritist Side of Virginia prepared for us to do as an exercise for these chapters. Think about this. It's about inner dwelling, okay? Look at this. It's about this inner dwelling when, okay, in read mode. Am I dwelling with anyone in my life? Yes or no? even if it's mental. Dwelling is about mental and or physical battle. And do I, like Saul of Tarsus, feel envy, jealousy, and spite? In a scale 0 to 10, how do you feel about it? Because Saul of Tarsus was, he was envious, jealous. And then he developed this spite, this feeling of anger towards Stephen, to the point that in chapter 7 we're going to read that he wants to stone him to death no matter what. How often are we just like this? We want something that people have or that people are, envy. We feel unhappy or anger because somebody has something that we want or someone that we want. And then we develop this spite. So in a scale 0 to 10, let us evaluate ourselves. Where am I? Because constantly we are comparing ourselves to others. Constantly. Constantly are like, oh, but look at the person. How did they get there? Oh no, that's not possible. How come they got this? How come they live that way? How come they have a marriage and they have children and I don't? And they have this and I don't. And they are like that and I am not. How can we be at peace when we're constantly comparing ourselves to others, like Saul of Tarsus used to do? He was in that ego trip, constantly dwelling with people who are different, prejudiced, feeling superior. And if he couldn't be superior, he wanted to smash the other person. Very spiteful. Are we that different from him? The reason why Emmanuel brings this to us is to talk about our inner journey. So today, we need to evaluate how far we're going to go in this dwelling mentality. We need to dwell with the husband and the wife, the child that we have, the parents that we have. We're constantly saying, my parents don't understand me. My husband doesn't understand me. My siblings don't understand me. And nobody understands me. And people don't help me. And this is a dwelling mode. It can't go right. Can't go right. Saul of Tarsus detoured because of that. And then in chapter 7, we're going to see that he impulsively and with the idea of revenge, he goes to the house of the way, and no matter how many beautiful things he sees, he arrests Peter, John, and Philip. He doesn't arrest James because James felt himself out of fear more connected to the Mosaic scriptures. So Saul of Tarsus sees that and leaves him alone. He was obsessed, Saul of Tarsus, with the idea of public revenge and imagined sinister scenarios in his overly excited mind. What about us? How often do you think of revenge? Often. And do we truly believe that people did anything to us? Did Stephen do anything to Saul? No. But he was upset. How many times we blame on people they haven't done nothing, but we still blame them. You know why? Because they didn't come to be our subjects in our whims. We want them to come to our house, to visit us, to care for us. They don't, and then we're upset with them. And then we want them to um, absorb our ideas. They don't. Then we're upset with them. We want to avenge them. Or they didn't say hi, or the boss didn't promote us, or the family member didn't invite us, or and then in that mode of egotism, self-centeredness, self-absorption, like Saul of Tarsus, we start to be angry, furious, and we want to avenge. And in the house of the way, Saul of Tarsus was starting to be conflicted because he saw the poor people being helped and he saw the miracles of love, and yet he didn't give in. And when he comes back, he's more upset to know that his mentor Gamaliel, a major teacher in the Sanhedrin, comes to Saul of Tarsus and tries to change his mind. He's upset and he says, "Don't tell me you have given in." And he says, in a private conversation, he sees that the people of the way are right. He says, the way seems to have a great purpose in the renovation of our human religious values. Who amongst us has ever remembered to help the unfortunate by providing them with a loving and fraternal home? Think about this. Till Jesus, if you were poor, you're an outcast. If you are sick, you're an outcast. If you're ugly, if you're paralytic, if you have no influence, you're nobody. Jesus comes and says, no, we're all equal. And the richer needs to help the poor, the influential needs to help the ones that are ordinary, and so on and so forth. So today, if we have hospitals, justice system, schools, daycares, it's all thanks to the Christ consciousness. Emmanuel says that in another book that is yet to be translated. We owe everything to the Christ consciousness. This feeling of equality, of human rights, of true justice, love, and charity. Gamaliel is surprised. Saul is surprised by Gamaliel's teachings, and he says, "Is it possible that you too have read the Galilean's gospel?" And Gamaliel says without hesitation, "I'm reading it. And I intend to meditate a bit longer on the phenomena that are happening at present. I foresee great changes everywhere. I intend to retire from public life in a few days in order to take up the way of the desert. However, it's clear that my words must be kept by you as a token of mutual trust." Saul of Tarsus was shocked. Oh, yes. And he says, please do not sentence this man. And Saul of Tarsus says, okay, I will let Peter go back because he's a man of family. I'll let Philip go back because he has a family as well. But John, the evangelist, has to be exiled. And Stephen will be stoned to death. Gamaliel understood the power of that resolution. Saul had made it very clear that there would be no compromise regarding the sorcerer. The old rabbi did not insist. To avoid a scandal, he understood that Stephen would have to pay with martyrdom. Within a few minutes, the general surprise of the assembly, Saul of Tarsus proposed to free Peter and Philip, to banish John, and to reiterate his request for Stephen's stoning, considering him the most dangerous member of the way. The authorities of the Sanhedrin evaluated the proposals, and satisfied in knowing that the measure would please the mob, they gave their unanimous consent. and Stephen's death was set for a week later. Saul invited his friends to the tragic public ceremony over which he himself would preside. This is the end of chapter 7, and I will bring back to you the form for inner awareness, because this book doesn't come for our literary delight, it comes for inner awareness. So today we're studying how much of us is still like Saul of Tarsus, egotistic, self-centered, self-absorbed. Even those people who say, but I do this to help my family, I help more than I help myself. That's not true. Because it's the Cartman triangle. I help with a hidden agenda to be loved, to be approved of, to be accepted, to be followed. No. And then inside, I keep comparing myself. And when we compare ourselves, inevitably we'll feel envy, jealousy, spite. So today, our third exercise, as you can see in this form on the screen, write down main recommendations for your inner improvement regarding how to stop this dwelling mind and how to overcome envy, jealousy, and spite. This is our exercise. I'm also doing this exercise. This book is for all of us, and it's the Christ calling us for a true inner transformation. Can we do it? Yes, we can. What an opportunity for us when we come back next week. We will be studying about the death of Stephen. There are many lessons there for us. Today, this lesson is about serenity under pressure plus peacemaking skills. We wish you many blessings, friends all over the world, and we look forward to seeing you in 1 week at another beautiful opportunity with Paul and Stephen.